Bonjour, everyone. Hi, this is Neshi Lilcott. Welcome to Nature Adventures here on Star Nation's Radio Network live stream shows on Facebook. Thank you for being with us this afternoon for the show. I'm excited about it. Why? Because I get to do the show with one of my sisters, Minnie Kansman. I'm going to bring her on in just a second here. And as I'm doing that, if I could ask you guys to please share and like the broadcast as soon as you come on, because we got so much to cover this afternoon. I don't want to take away the time to ask you guys to do that, okay? And so if you could do that right away, I really would appreciate it. We've got ceremony to talk about, and it's something that Minnie and I, we've done this kind of ceremony together so many times, and it's about the fire ceremony and the solstice. And so I'm going to bring her on because we're going to do something special. Okay, hold on. Here we go. Hey, Minnie.
Hello. Hey, everybody. We're talking about fire today.
Nature adventures. We're adventuring into the solstice. Because we're such a global community, literally. I mean, we have people not just here in the United States, but Canada and Mexico, Scotland, Ireland, England, Australia, New Zealand. Our community is very large. And so I want to make sure that when we're talking about the solstice, that we're including both the spring and the winter solstice, because for those that are in the southern hemisphere, they're celebrating the summer solstice. Yeah, summer solstice. Yeah. But you have something very special for us.
Yeah. Well, fire is one of my elements that I really, really connect with. I love all the elements, but fire is so magical and transformative. And I thought today, let's start out this show with a little fire meditation. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds good. I'm going to share out the show while you get everybody prepared for the meditation, okay? And
sounds good.
I'll be back in a sec.
Okay. So, everybody, if you happen to have a candle that you can light nearby, I mean, I know a lot of you might not be able to, but if you happen to have a candle that you could light, this would be the time to do it. I light a candle before every show that we do, and every meditation that I do, and every time I come to work on my computer in the morning, even on my altar, because fire is such a powerful ally for me, and it really helps to clear the space, clear the energy, and to create sacred space. So get your candle lit if you have one, and get yourself in a comfortable place, seated with your feet on the floor, and really feel yourself supported by the chair or whatever you're sitting in. Feel your body fully supported and just let it go. And take some nice deep breaths. And you can close your eyes if you'd like. And just breathe. Take that moment to just be here in your body now. That's good. And in your mind's eye, I'd like you to visualize yourself striking that match and lighting that candle, even if you don't have a physical one in front of you. But see yourself lighting that candle, that flame, that initial spark that creates the flame on the match, and then light the candle. And in your mind's eye, stare at the candle flame and notice the different colors of the candle flame, the orange and the white and the blue even. And feel the warmth of that fire. Bring that into your heart. Breathe that in, that fire, and feel it radiating out of your body. And now see yourself outside with the sun on you. And feel that heat all around you on a beautiful sunny day. And that sun surrounds you. It feels so good. And breathe that in again. All of that wonderful warmth. All of that golden fire energy. And feel the spirit of fire filling you. Filling you from your head to your toes. Feel the energizing spirit of fire. And now send that energy out. Send that energy out into the room you're in, into your home, as it clears and it cleanses and it transforms and energizes the space. And send it out into your community and out into our global community, to the world. And open your eyes. Woo. I'm getting hot. Anybody else?
I know. Build up the heat. That was good. Thank you. Thank you. And especially when we send it out to the global community, because I think that's so important, you know. Yeah. We have a couple people with us, just to let you know. Julie Shumway Hill's here. Yay, Julie. Thanks for being here.
Hey.
And Christine, one of our sisters, is here.
Hi, Christine.
And Carla Joe is here. Good afternoon, Carla Joe. Yeah,
Hi, Carla.
Yeah, Carla Joe is one of our contributing writers. She, her column is The Eclectic Pagan's Journey. And she shared about her ceremony that she does at Solstice in the December issue. And let me tell you, it's pretty dang good. Yeah.
No, Solstice is coming up. It's Friday. I have quite a big celebration going on here. You know, Spirits decided to make it a big one this year, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I always do solstice and equinoxes at the Stone Circle in my town of Portland, Michigan. There's a standing stone circle in the park downtown. And we meet at sunrise because the stone circle is set up to mark the equinoxes and solstices. So on summer solstice, it rises above one stone. On winter solstice, it rises above another. And on the equinoxes, it rises between these two stones of the entire circle.
Wow.
And so probably for the last 3 years, maybe 4, I've hit almost every one, unless I'm traveling, unless I'm with a group, you know, and we're in another country. I've been there. And sometimes I've been there by myself. And sometimes, usually it's like 3 or 4 regulars. But Friday, we have 10 people coming. So.
Oh my gosh, that is great.
I'm
that is
excited. Great. I'm so excited. Oh. And our friend Bev usually brings sparklers, and we celebrate the light. We celebrate, you know, going from the longest day of darkness to the beginning of the longer days with the sun. And you know, we always have an altar that in the middle stone. We always create an altar with a candle and some offerings. I'll bring some pine, any flowers anyone has. Kat always brings chocolate because we know the elementals there like chocolate. Yeah. Sometimes there's sage. You know, it all depends, and people will bring different items to put on the altar too. And then we just all sit on waterproof like tablecloths and tarps because the ground is wet, you know, in the winter times. And spring equinox can be very wet too. And then we have blankets because sometimes it's been, you know, like -10, and usually that's when we don't have as many people. It's warmer right now, so that's why we're having more.
So say again,
but we bring blankets.
Say again the date that you're going to be doing this. In case
it's Friday, the 21st. Equinox is actually, or solstice is actually in the afternoon on Friday. I think it's like 4:32, something like that. But we're always there at sunrise. So sunrise is scheduled for 8 o'clock on Friday on the 21st. We're meeting there about 7:45. So anyone that wants to join us, you're welcome. It's Portland, Michigan, at the Bogue Flats Recreation Area. And if you want to message me on Facebook to get the, real directions and address, I can give that to you. But it's right downtown Portland near the river, and it's a beautiful spot, and it's so much fun to watch. It's so fun to watch sunrises anyway, isn't it?
I know it.
But this one's so special. Yep. And we just try to stay as warm as we can. And this year, my husband has offered to make an Estonian breakfast for everyone. So we're all coming back to my house for Estonian breakfast. So
what does that
involve? What does that involve?
I've got an echo going on.
It's kind of like a breakfast pancake. It's a baked pancake souffle combo. It's the yummiest thing, and you put maple syrup on it, and you put fruit on it, and he's making a gluten-free one and a regular one. And so if you're coming, let me know, because you might have to make 3. But
I'm gonna.
He's happy to.
I have to check my sound here. I may have to refresh my screen so we can get rid of this echo. I'm thinking. I don't know. Did it go away?
I'm not hearing an echo. I heard you going in and out a little bit.
Okay, so let's ask the audience in the chat room. Are you guys hearing an echo on my part at all? Because I could hear it in the studio. But it's gone now.
Good.
All right. You never know. I know that the Stone Circle, it's a very special place in many different ways. I remember the first time we were at your place when you first moved in, and I was with Christine. She's in the chat. I always tell this story. She probably gets tired of me telling it. But we were driving by and we saw the Stone Circle first. Right? Because I'm driving. And she goes, standing stones, yes, stones. And I could feel her energetically leaving the truck and heading out the window. I said, no, stay in the truck. I said, when we go there, we should all be there together. And she was just so excited about standing stones. But it is.
I remember you guys were so excited. And I had we were still moving that day. We were moving in that day, I think. And it was like, I had no idea there were standing stones. So Christine found them.
Yes, she did.
Pretty awesome.
Yes, she did. Whatever that echo is, it's gone. We had 3 replies. Christine said, not now. Stephanie was minor. And Rob is saying, yes. He says, yes, will an Estonian breakfast make us compose choral music like Arvo Part? I can't pronounce that. Sure, why not?
I don't know who people are, but
sure, why not?
Probably not.
I love those times. You. And we do have a picture here of one of your ceremonies. And I think maybe it was last winter, last solstice, winter solstice.
The one we used for the ad, yeah.
Yeah, do you want to
Yeah. That's the center stone I was telling you about that we set the altar up on.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and you can see the mitten there, because it's cold. That looks like I believe that was last winter's solstice. I brought the pine, and there's probably sage in that bag.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes they're bringing a thermos of tea, or people bring hot beverages to drink because it's cold.
Yeah.
And our down coats, and we usually stay as long as we can, which sometimes is about an hour, and then we're but if it's warmer, I mean today it's 42 out. I think it's going to be 30 in the 30s, but that's still warm for Michigan, for 7 in the morning. So if you want to come, join us. We'd love to have you. And every equinox and solstice, if I'm not traveling, you'll find me in the stones. So haven't Outlander, time traveled out of them yet, but there's always a first time.
Well, I would like to be there. Oh, there's the echo. There's the echo. I'm going to refresh my screen. So,
Okay.
I'm going to be gone for a second, and I don't know if it's going to kick you out too, Minnie, or not. If it does, just come back into the lobby. Okay. We'll be back in a second.
I'll just keep talking.
Okay.
I'll share a little more about the stone circle. Is not an old circle. It's actually was built in the 80s by Edward Leake and his brother built it as part of this arboretum that they made a tribute to their parents. So there's all kinds of beautiful different trees planted in this area, but he's also created some different statuary pieces with natural stones, made a sundial, a fountain, and did these standing stones. And I have met with Ed, and he's told me that it took several years for them to get those stones aligned. It wasn't an easy task. He said it took a long time. And some years he shows up on the solstice or equinox.
Yeah.
And he lives in Texas now. So he showed up last fall equinox. He was there when my friend Annie was visiting, because we're usually talking about him, and then he walks up behind us and out of the stones, and people think I just conjured him up because I'm talking about him. It's pretty. He did that for our forest therapy this summer. He just showed up right when I was giving the history of the stones. So I was like, Ed, what do you want to add? But
he must enjoy that. He must enjoy that, to have people.
He loves that we're using it, and he's so excited that we're there every equinox and solstice. And I've really never seen any other people from town there, so I think I've started it. But we'll see.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe that's why you guys made the decision to move there. Everything kind of aligned.
Oh, I think that's part of it.
Yeah,
Okay, I think we have a delivery coming, and the dog's going to bark. Just pre-warning.
So
I think we'll be fine. But I think the delivery truck is coming for Christmas delivery. It's probably her Chewy.com order.
Okay, so we basically shared about the meaning of solstice, right? The shortest night, and what kind of energy is that used for? Because the ancients have been doing this really a long time before we came around, and I think it's kind of like way cool that we, not just us, but a lot of people that we know practice some sort of ceremony on those high holy days, right? Those solstices and equinoxes. And so with the solstice, a lot of times what Paul and I do, I used to do really public ones, and I haven't done that since probably 2012 or 2013. But when Paul and we still have a bonfire, we still have a fire, and we talk about, and we reminisce almost about the past year of things that occurred, things that came about that were kind of a surprise. We talk about the good things and things that, we would have done differently had we, had the opportunity to, but, and we're standing around the fire, and what we're wanting to release to make room for in the new year, right? The new energy. So we do that. Sometimes we do write it out and put it in the fire. I always do a tobacco ceremony and place it into the fire, the tobacco, because, well, in Potawatomi, and that we're keepers of the fire. That's what we're known for. And so many times we will use the fire to place the tobacco rather than, we put it on the ground too, but when it's really, really important, we put it into the fire. And so I always do a tobacco giving ceremony for the solstice as well. And, and then what we do is we talk about what we want to bring in, and sometimes, again, we write it out, or a lot of times we just voice it. and announcing it to the universe, right? To all of creation. And that's what the tobacco giving ceremony is about, is requesting, asking for the assistance to bring in those good things that we want for the new year. And this last solstice, I had my phone with me because I wanted to sing a thank you song. It's in Lakota, and I don't know the words, just off from memory. So I needed the lyrics to go with it. And we're going to do something similar, I think, this year as well. Now that we have George, it's going to be a very interesting situation to be out there with him. Yeah. Yeah. So, so that's what I mean, it can be very, like you're doing, a very public and very gathering of people to pay an honoring and acknowledgement to the solstice energy, right? Or it can be very simple. It can just be you and another person, or it could just be you, and you don't necessarily even have to have a bonfire. You can have a candle, right?
Right.
Minnie, for those that might be watching even the recorded show, when we're using, no matter how big the fire or how little the fire, I know that we've done this so many times together. I know that there's a process, a planning of it, the actual striking of the match. I was hoping that maybe you could help us walk through a little bit of that preparation for those people who might be for the first time doing something on their own. It might be helpful for them to know some of the things that we've done to get prepared for it, especially the lighting of the match. I think that's a major piece.
Yeah. Well, with everything, do we have an echo now? I'm hearing echo from me.
And you don't, and I don't hear an echo from you at all.
Good.
Do you want to refresh your screen before you start, or do you want to just try to keep going?
Let me see how it is.
Okay.
Okay, I don't hear it now. So, okay. Well, every time. First, I want to start with fire, because I have such respect for fire, and you really have to have respect for fire before you do any kind of ceremony with fire. It's a very powerful elemental on its own, and we've seen the destructive pieces of fire when it's not cared for, when you're not respectful of it, when you are mindful of its energy. Mm-hmm. So always in the back of my mind, that respect has to be there first before I do anything with fire. I tend a wood stove every day, so I'm working with fire, 24/7 here, and I know, if I do something not centered, not in a mindful, grounded place, I could burn our house down. So, I need to be focused when I'm working, or I could burn myself, or I could burn the rug, and I mean, there's all kinds of variations of that. So that's the first piece, is the respect. But you can do fire ceremony with, any, just as small as a candle. Again, with any ceremony, it's intention. So getting your intention set first for why you're doing this. But you can, every time you strike a match, you can create and energize any intention. When the kids were young and we would have, family dinner all together, I'd have candles on the table, and I would light the candle before people sat down, but I would, talk about, a healthy food with wonderful conversation with my family, where we all share, I would set that intention into what I wanted that family meal to be, and then light the candle. So, there's opportunity for fire ceremony every day in your life if you take that opportunity. Mm-hmm. But it's about speaking either in your mind or out loud that intention before you strike the match, not after you strike the match, before, because that energy of that spark is what sends that out
It's
into
a
the
very
universe.
powerful
Or
moment.
it is, or the clearing happens in that moment, in an instant. That's what fire does in an instant. It's so fast.
Yes.
That's its magic. It's so fast, so stinking fast. I love it. So how is it for you, Neshi?
Oh, yeah, you can, when you're focused, and I want to also say that, you want to make sure that you are completely in that moment. So, because so many of us get busy, right? So many of us get busy. And when we get to the ceremony, a lot of times you got so many things going on at one time. Even if you're by yourself, you want to take a moment and just breathe. Take a deep breath in and get grounded. Be there in your entirety. And sometimes that means, that really means bringing yourself back from maybe something happened earlier in the day and part of your mind is still on that. Bring you on back. Or maybe you're thinking about something in the future. And it doesn't have to be, really long in the future. It could just be what's going to happen once the ceremony is done and everybody's gone home, or you're complete if you're doing it on your own, is bring yourself really to that moment. And that is what Minnie is talking about, is being focused and really being there, because when you light that match, it's a very powerful moment. It's a very sacred moment, because in many ways you're creating alchemy in that moment.
You are.
Yeah. And I have to say that, and I've done it so many different ways. I've done the candles. So one time I only had a birthday candle. It's like, all right, it's going to be a good intention. It's going to be a strong one because I only have a little candle. and it worked, and everything to a huge bonfire. And I have to say that from my cultural point of view is that, we believe that there is a spirit in that fire, that fire has a spirit, it has a consciousness. And so when we're calling on it to be present, it's in that moment of that co-creation, because literally the fire is going to clear out what you want to release. Like Minnie said, in that moment, it's done, it's gone. But it also will take our prayers as well. So, and it's, in many cultures, Native American cultures, they actually call the fire grandfather, Misho. And because it has a male energy to it, right? And so many times, and I don't know, maybe our audience, maybe you guys have seen this. Hey, and we missed a person. Sorry, Mel. Mel saying hi. Hi, Mel.
Oh, hi, Mel.
Many times when we're gazing into the fire, right, that we can actually see images in the fire. And I know that you have a couple really good pictures of that. Do you want to add something to that before we show the pictures?
No, I think, well, different names for that fire spirit from different backgrounds, but I think I would say this is probably more Celtic background from the elemental standpoint. A name for them is salamanders, for the fire spirits.
Oh.
But if we went to Middle Eastern country, it's often called jinn, Jinn, jinn. And I remember Ted Andrews, the author Ted Andrews, would talk about jinn. When I first heard him talking about the fire elementals, he had stories about jinn. And I did a little bit of research on that this morning, and jinn is where the word genie came from. And remember, genie came from the lamp, right?
Yes.
You rub the lamp. Well, the oil lamp, right? The fire, and it makes sense. And what I want to say, the word jinn means concealed or hidden, and so they would call it the smokeless flame. It's hidden. The spirit is hidden in the fire. So the fire spirit, and they believe that humans, man comes. And this is from Islam. Man comes from earth, and jinn comes from the smokeless flame, and they're two entities living on the earth here at the same time, they believe, and you just can't see the jinn. It's like, the unseen world.
Spirit.
But that those two entities that living here on earth together have free will. And that's what makes them different from some of the other angels or deities or things. We have free will to make decisions. So it's like, other world, other dimension of, they believe this whole, these fire beings are living here alongside us.
Cool. And they have free will.
And they have free will. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That answers a lot of things, doesn't it? That's why we can so many spirits in the fire.
Right. And the respect too, for me, it's just like in humans, you want to treat, people with respect, or, it might not go well for you. Same thing with fire, right?
Yeah.
Don't want to make anyone angry because so it was really interesting. I've not heard of that before. And then there's also a connection with volcanoes and Pele and the fire spirit in that way too.
Yeah.
So, lots of global fire traditions all over, they all have their different fire spirit kind of entity, energy, how they describe it. But I love that the jinn, like small places, like to exist in small places, and it said like lamps, like Aladdin's lamp, that they like to live in small places. So
interesting. That's fascinating, because I was just thinking, that if fire has been with us two-leggeds for a long time, since I was just thinking about the ancient ones when fire was first discovered, that flint, or if you go to the lightning, how it was brought. I'm glad all these dots are starting to connect,
Right. Or the volcanoes, right?
Right. Very fascinating stuff. And so when we're ready to call on the spirit of fire in a ceremony, because we can use spirit of fire in any ceremony, not just the solstices or the equinoxes, but any ceremony. But when we call on that spirit of fire, now we know a broader perspective of why it's important to have your respect and to be able to work together in that way. My goodness. Yes. Rob is saying something interesting. He's saying they are the angelic realm for those who speak Arabic. They are. The jinn.
Right. Yeah, I saw something about that they have different types of angels, and they put the fire beings in with one of their categories of angel. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I want to show a couple of the pictures that you have, because they're fascinating. All right. So which one would you like to start with, Minnie?
Show the one from the book first. Okay. I think. From Missing Nana, because Sylvia, the girl in the book, goes to a large bonfire on summer solstice and starts seeing images in the fire, beings in the fire, as well as her grandma in the center lower portion of that. Her Nana shows up as well, but she starts to see some of the images that the fire beings can, some of the persona they can take on. You know, it doesn't mean there's a fire stag or a fire owl or whatever you see in there necessarily, but just that fire spirit chose to show themselves to her in that way, in that moment. You know, just like a fairy would show herself as, you know, a dot of light or a Tinkerbell or whatever. You know, this is my understanding of fire elementals as I work with them, that they'll show up in ways that you can connect with. But the salamander, you can put the salamander one up now, Neshi, the picture of, because when I stare, and I stare at fire a lot, you will see a being kind of like this. It's kind of almost like a dragonish. They call it salamander, but it feels very dragony to me too. But it can have that shape and that look, and I think that's why the Celts started calling them salamanders, because, you know, this image with the flames you see a lot. And then there's some pictures of some real fire. There's one that looks like a dragon.
Okay, hang on.
Put that one out.
Yep, here it is.
Yeah, I love that.
Me too.
And it's not a very big fire. It's not a very big fire. It almost looks like an Epsom salt fire to me, the way, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I can totally see the salamander dragon in
Absolutely. How cool would that? How cool would that? Like
I know. And then the other, and all you have to do is just when you have your camera on a fire, just start taking pictures. Walk around the fire in different ways, and ask to be shown, and you will get images in your photographs. You will. So the next one, if that one shows up, I know it's a small, and you can start to see faces and beings. You know, if you really look, I can see a dragon down in the right hand corner. There's a face almost in the middle. There's all kinds of beings in this fire shot. I think this is one of the fire shots that I found for Christine, for her to paint the picture for the book, to give her an idea of what I was looking for. And yeah,
isn't the one on the upper? Oh, I've got this echo going. Up in the upper center, almost looks cat-like to me. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot.
There's a lot going.
Yeah. So play around with that, you know, with your camera, and especially if you ask to be shown, they'll show up for you. Yeah. You know, you ask with a kind heart, they'll show up for you.
Yeah. Carla Jo has a link here, a YouTube link. Carla Jo, could you put in the comment what the link is about? Because if there's somebody who's watching the recorded show, they won't know what that link is for. So if you could, that would be great. So that they know what they're clicking on, right? Yeah. Fascinating. And here's one for Julie. Julie Shumway Hill is saying, love the fire pictures. Yeah. Minnie and I have done so many fire ceremonies together, and we've witnessed so many awe-inspiring things with the fire. And, you know, and we've done ceremonies where we're releasing things, you know, we used to think that, you know, that there's the fire will actually make sounds too.
Right. I wanted to share something, Neshi.
Sure.
These are called wishing papers, flying wishing paper. I don't know if you've ever used it.
Yes. Yep.
But it's really kind of cool because you have like a little piece of it's almost like a tissue paper. Probably is, but I don't know. I would try it with regular, but it's like a tissue paper, and you can write whatever you want to release or call in on it, whichever you want to do. And then you wrinkle it all up in a tiny little ball. And then I'm not going to light it in here because this is best to be done outside, because I did one in my office earlier before the show and I went, oh, this is messy. But you pull it all out again and smooth it all out, and then you roll it up into a tube, and you set it on they give you a little paper to set it on, and then you light it, and it actually flies up in the air. It turns to like a black ash and flies up in the air. But then the black ash all falls and makes a mess. So do it outside.
Yeah.
But it's really kind of cool, because it really takes off. I mean, it hit the ceiling and yeah, crazy. And so, but again, mindful, respectful. You gotta, be aware of what you're doing.
Yeah, it is fun.
Cool.
It is fun. The first time they came out on the market, it was about birthdays, birthday wishes, and so that the birthday person would write their wish on it, and that's how it was marketed, right? And then there's those of us that have been, doing this kind of work for a really long time, saw it, and it was like, oh my God, fire ceremony. And so they come in different sizes, or at least they did. They come in different sizes.
Oh.
3 different sizes: small, medium, and large.
Bigger would be fun. Yeah.
And definitely do them outside. Definitely. All right. So we have Carla Jo is saying that the link, the YouTube link that she put in the comments, is that she says this is a Wiccan fire chant. Spirit of fire, come to us. We will kindle the fire. Isn't that nice? Thank you for sharing that, Carla Jo.
Thank you. I don't have a fire song. That would be really fun to learn one,
Yeah. I thought the fox, but it's not. Darn. I saw movement out the window, and it's like out the corner of my eye. And I thought the fox.
Missed it.
I was like, yeah. So I'm checking the time. We have about 20 minutes or so. Yeah, so when we're talking about the winter solstice and using the element of fire to bring it in, because the solstices especially, they're almost synonymous, aren't they? The fire and the solstice, right? Fire and solstice. Yeah.
Well, it's always about light, and the sun.
Yeah. And almost every year for, I don't know, several years, I signed up for the drawing at Newgrange in Ireland, because they do a drawing for a number of people to be able to go inside the cairn to witness and experience firsthand the solstice coming through the cairn. And I should have brought that picture of. I don't know if I have. I might have one. I might. If you want to share a little bit about Newgrange, because you've been there too. I think I've been there like 4 or 5 times. I'm going to look for the picture while you're doing that, okay?
Right. Well, I had the magical privilege of being there with Neshi about when we were in Ireland. It's in Ireland. That was about 4 years ago, I guess. And you walk into, this very narrow stone tunnel. And I remember I walked in, I think I was right behind you, Neshi, and I tapped your shoulder and I said, we're here together. We're really doing this. It was so cool. Because we had I think they got our whole group of 20 something. There we go. So you walk in there, and they let groups go, at so many people at a time. And they, our group was a little larger than usual, but they let us all go in together, which was really sweet. And this was one of my travel groups. And we all go in there, and then they turn off all the lights, and then they have a light that's supposed to, be in place of the sunrise. and then you can see how the sun would shine on the back wall and light up all the carvings and things on the back wall.
Yeah.
But it would just, it was like a trail. As the sun would rise, the light would be at the opening, and then it would slowly move its way to the back, and it was just so magical. And our bodies are all lined up against the edges, trying to keep an opening in the middle for that light.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the sunlight on the sunrise comes through, if you're looking at the picture here, it's coming through that top opening, which is not the doorway. The doorway, or the portal to the inside of the cairn, the burial site, is the opening below that. Okay, so the one on top is kind of like a window in a way.
Kind of like a transom window.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
So the sunlight comes through there, and it comes down through the to come into the cairn is a shaft, and they have pillars, stone pillars that are, it's holding the weight, right, of the cairn, and so they're like this, and so you can't wear your backpack on the way going inside. You have to take it off because you have to move between the stone pillars, and so the sunlight comes through that top box. And as it begins to rise, it starts to light up the shaft, and you can actually see the light moving further and further into the cairn, and illuminating until it gets to the full illumination, which lights up that back wall. And then there's pictures carved in and painted onto the back wall. Yeah. The first time I was there, I was with some friends of mine from actually Interior Alignment, and I have a good friend who lives near Dublin. Her name's Phil, and she says, "Well, the first time you're here, where do you want to go?" And I said I wanted to go to Newgrange, and she looked at me and she goes, "I haven't been to Newgrange since I was in 4th grade." It's like. And she thought I'd want to go to the Guinness, and it's like, well, no, not necessarily. It's nice, but I'd rather go to Newgrange. And so we went there, and I took my tobacco, of course, and I asked for permission to pass, because in front of this, the doorway that you see here, just on the other side of that camera shot, there's huge standing stones.
Oh, they're beautiful.
And
Beautiful
and so the first time I gave tobacco was asking this, because they're like sentinels, protectors.
Yeah.
And so I gave tobacco to pass for permission, and which I got, thank goodness. And so anyway, we go in, and they have electricity in there now. And so what they do is what Minnie was talking about, is a simulation of the solstice. And so here we are. There's a whole bunch of us in there, tourists and friends of mine, and they turn off all the lights, and literally you can't see your hand in front of your face. It's so dark in there. And you can hear and feel people kind of shifting around a bit, because it is dark, and there's some people who have a fear of the dark, right? And so you can hear people saying, "Come closer to me, hold my hand." And so they turned off the lights, and within a second or two, what I saw was this orb. It was kind of reddish in color, coming down through the shaft and the hallway, and it went through the crowd and then to the back wall. And I'm going, it's like, are my eyes open or are they closed? That's how dark it is. And what was that? And I felt somebody come stand next to me. And I thought it was my friend Carol coming to stand next to me. And so anyway, they turned the light on to be able to simulate the sun coming in, and which is really gorgeous, even with the simulation. But there was nobody standing next to me. There's not a two-legged standing next to me. So I missed half the stuff the tour guide said because I was talking to my team saying, what was that? What did I just experience? You know, because as you go into the chamber, you have three areas off the main hallway. And the one on the left, they say that was probably meant for the male leader, which would have been like a chieftain of some sort, right? Maybe a king. I don't know. And then the right side was meant for the female leader. And the one in the far back was meant for their spiritual leader, which would, in my words, would be a holy person. It'd be somebody who spent a lot of time with spirit, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like their medicine person. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So anyway, the experiencing Solstice at Newgrange is something on my list that someday they're going to select my name and I'm going to be able to be there.
And actually, the light does that for like 3 days. Or they do it for 3 days. You know, I think the day before and the day of and the day after.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, you can win the lottery for one of those times.
I wish I had that picture. Because didn't you use a picture of Newgrange in one of your articles, right?
I did a whole article, yeah, a couple of years ago, probably for
that would have been a better picture to use. If I would have,
I know, but we didn't think about. Well, fire is there so much in this topic.
I know. So looking at the time too, we had about not quite 10 minutes left too. So, what's the next thing that we think that is important for people to know about for the solstice? I think it's the intention.
Well, something else, you know, other ways to celebrate that sun part of the solstice, which is fire.
Mm-hmm.
I did this with my children when they were young. I don't do it as much anymore. But if you're, you know, you have a family and you want to do something with the kids that's not all Santa Claus and reindeer, because I loved introducing them to solstice as, you know, a more for us it was a really more spiritual way to experience the season by tuning into the earth. Rather than the craziness of Christmas, you know, of the commercialization of Christmas, I guess, you know. And so on solstice, you know, there's lots of really great books out there to give you ideas of what you can do on solstice, but you can just eat orange food. That was one of them. Like you would eat food that with yellow and orange, or we would make Christmas cookies, but we would make suns. You know, you're making Christmas cookies anyway, but we would make bright orange suns, you know, with yellow yellow sugars, and we would eat oranges, and I'd make a special orange fennel salad for that day. We would have squash, you know, all the orange and yellow type foods that you could think of.
Yeah.
I would do that. I've talked about this several times. We'd make a little cave out of stones and create our own little solstice nativity scene. So, you know, then there's other pieces where we would walk out into the darkness. We would light candles in the house and then walk away from the house so we couldn't see it anymore, and then walk back and see all the light in the windows of our house. And the kids love that the most. I mean, just walking out in the dark, you know. And I don't care if you're in the woods or not. I think just, you know, because you got to turn every light off in the house. And they would get really picky about the VCR lights and the mic. Like we'd have to cover everything with, you know, towels and things, because we had to be really dark, because then we'd sit in the dark and we talk about darkness. We talk about
good.
And they got to sit, you know, with their parents in their darkened house. How many kids get to do that too? And then we would light all the candles, and then we would walk out. Then you walk away where you can't see your house anymore, and then you walk back and see the light returning. So it was very symbolic for them, and they still talk about our solstice ceremonies. So, you know, I'm sure there's lots of things online, but check that out. there's all kinds of ways to celebrate with kids.
Sure.
It's not just an
And
adult celebrating,
I remember when the first time you were explaining or sharing that with me, I was thinking, how cool is that? Is to darken your house and to sit there with your children or with your family, and you talk about the returning of the light and what it's like what it means to sit in the darkness, right?
Great.
Yeah, I think that's like way cool. Yeah. Returning of the light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great. It was really
It's interesting. I'm going to ask those in the chat if they have I know Carla Joe has a ceremony that she does, a ritual that she does for the solstice, but and she did share this with us, and so the others, if you would like to put in the chat, if you do acknowledge or do something special on the solstice, and if you do ceremony for the solstice, because it's actually two different things. Because with the ceremony, I think that it's the intention that's probably the most important piece to the ceremony. Not to say that your sacred tools aren't important, because they are, but you have a much more powerful ceremony when it's coming from your heart, and you've spent some time in preparation for that.
Right.
What you think?
Right. And even, like you said, just the lighting of a candle with intention. Our friend Sharon Rosenblum does that, setting her intentions for the new year, because she talks about solstice being the time actually when the germination begins for the next year. So she sets all of that, for your garden and your life.
Right.
She works with the Paralandra solstice type ceremony. And I know it's just lighting a white candle, because I've done that a few times too, and setting my intentions that way. So yeah. Julie, so there's still time to create your own ceremony, to think of what you would like to do. And it can be just as simple as a white candle that you light. But there's preparation in the intention.
Right.
Yes.
Julie is saying, I have not, but it sounds interesting. So, when and if you decide to do this, Julie, my suggestion is to actually look to your own heritage, because your ancestors did celebrate this. They did do some sort of ceremony for the solstices and the equinoxes. And so if you turn to what you carry in your blood and your bones, to find out what they did or how they did it, at least you'd get an idea of what direction you might want to go in, and when you do your own ceremony. Yeah. To me, that's the exciting.
And some people figure out, find out the exact time and make sure that, and do their ceremony on that exact time. And like I said, it's like 4:30 something, but you can look that up on the internet very easily in your time zone.
Yeah.
What time, the exact time. Because there is magic in that moment of that too. That
I think, especially when you're first starting out, and for maybe some time after that, there is something about when every aspect of yourself is consciously aware of that ceremony. So when we do it on the moment, on the minute and the second, to light that match, it does something to your conscious thought, to your mental mind. It's like that part of you all of a sudden thinks this is really important, because there is a part of our brain, the ancient part of our brain, recognizes and remembers the importance of fire and sunlight. Right. Rob is saying, I don't beyond standard Christmas celebration. Yeah. Well, it's something to think about though, huh? to think about. And Marie is saying, I always acknowledge it and do with the full moon, but I'm wanting to start one with the solstice. Hence why this conversation is so intriguing. And if you're going to do something like that, this is the year to do it, Marie, because we have a full moon. The night
On Solstice.
on the 22nd is the full moon.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very powerful solstice. Yeah.
It is. I was watching, the moon was keeping me up last night even. I was like, oh, you are almost full. Yeah. So, and even when we're in the stone circle and it's cloudy and we don't necessarily see the sunrise, it gets light, it's still powerful. It's still really powerful. So,
yeah. And Carla Jo is saying, at least follow what calls to you. Yeah. What resonates with you, what feels good to you, that that kind of it makes you sit up and go, what's that about? Yeah, because there's something calling to you from that, right? And Rob is saying, December 25th is tied to the solar mystery and the solstice. Yeah, I think it really depends on your belief system, right? Because there's some people who think that Christmas didn't really happen in December, that it might have happened in summertime, maybe closer to the summer solstice. I don't know. So I think it really depends on the belief system. And if that is your belief system, then I say, understand as much of it as you can. And then when you sit down to do your intention for whatever ceremony or however you celebrate it, is that you're coming from a balance of your heart and your head, right? So you're coming from your high heart. So that no matter what you do, you're coming from a good place with it. Yeah. What do you say about that, Minnie? Because we're at the top of the hour, actually. So,
for me, Christmas Eve is always a really magical night as well. And we're going to have some full moon energy out there happening. Still on the definitely on the 24th. So I will be outside doing some Christmas Eve moon ceremony as well. As doing what I do for solstice. So it's this whole time, this energy of the season is really wonderful if you tap in. For me, if I tap into the earth basedness of it, I get so much more out of the season. And so there's a true joy in that.
Yeah. And my piece in it happens year round. The time of the holy season, the holy days in December, tends to bring out the best in people. We talk a lot about peace on earth. We talk a lot about peace within. We talk a lot about what Christ, what he stood for, right? He's an ascended master, and what he brought here for us to see, and also to say that that we were capable of that and more. He brought us so much. And so it's those things that I think comes to the surface this time of year, and I like to try to keep it year round. If I keep that intention. Yeah. So with that, wishing you the merriest and brightest solstice and Christmas, because this is our monthly show, right? So we get to wish you all
our last show of the year.
I know. Yep. Can you believe that? So wishing you all the abundance and blessings to you and yours.
Yes. Enjoy your holidays. Enjoy your family and friends and your celebrations. I'm sure fire will be a part of it in some way.
In some way. With that.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and we'll see you again next month in January for the very first show of 2019 for Nature Adventures. Thank you, Minnie.
Bye, everyone. Bye.